In this video, we're going to talk about how to find off-market, foreclosed, vacant, and rental properties step by step. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Rinde from AskRinde, and welcome to the #1 community for real estate, income, and credit. So if you'd like to know how to find and buy off-market, foreclosed, vacant, and rental properties step by step in any market, make sure you watch the video to the end and leave a comment below if you need help with anything. So I've been buying and selling real estate now for 19 years, since 2002. And I've been in different market cycles. I've been in up markets and I've also been in down markets. And one of the recurring things I can tell you throughout my years that I've seen in the most stable part of real estate is off-market real estate. And that's simply because off-market real estate has nothing to do with the year. It has nothing to do with the circumstances, the economy. It's simply a world of its own. So for example, if you're looking to find and buy a home on the open market, the retail market, through the MLS, well, timing becomes key, because the best time to be able to buy a home on the open market is when the market is bad for sellers, in a bad seller's market. So for example, 2009, 2011, 2012, those were a bad seller's market. That's when the inventory level was very high and buyers had their choice of what they would buy or they would not buy. Unlike now, where inventory levels are so low, they're at 16-year lows, and buyers are literally buying anything that they can actually get an offer accepted on. Off-market real estate is not like that. So for example, just last Monday, in this sizzling hot market, a partner and I just closed on a property and was able to profit well over 5 figures on that same property in a market that's actually impossible to find off-market properties. The property was done completely off-market, and we actually made a ton of money without actually putting up $0. I like to call it no competition real estate. So this is where you actually set up your terms, your negotiations, your price points, your profit margin, your profit spread without any competition whatsoever. Is the best way to do real estate. In contrast, the open market is overrun with competition, and it just got worse with Biden's new 1031 exchange rule maxing out capital gains at $500,000. Add to that Opendoor, iBuyer, Zillow, and other real estate companies actually joining in the fray to be able to make offers on people's properties, such as FSBOs and actually regular homeowners that are listing their properties. The competition is fierce. So if you're trying to buy a home and you're wondering why you can't find a house, well, there are many reasons why you can't find a house. Not only are you competing with everyone else that has either an FHA mortgage or a low interest rate that they're trying to get into a home, but also you're competing against big companies and also large organizations that have multiple millions of dollars and billions of dollars to be able to buy pools of properties. Add to that the 1031 exchange rule and a new revision to it, you're going to see a lot of investors that are actually used to buying multi-unit buildings and large properties start to move towards the residential market, making inventory even less to acquire. So the only way to go around that is to actually go into what I call no competition real estate. And that's where you actually find foreclosed homes, vacant homes, and also rentals off market with no competition. So we have a 4-step process that we use to be able to find off-market properties on a daily basis. So step 1 will be using one of our 2 recommended databases. And that database would be Propstream.com. So Propstream is actually an excellent database to be able to find properties of all types. And this is one of the tools that we use to be able to find properties, and they have excellent filter systems in place to be able to source based on the area that you're looking for. So for example, I put in this city, and actually I'm going to go over here to filter. And when you click on filter, you'll be able to go in and filter the property search from everything from owner occupancy status to the property characteristics, what type of property you're looking for, whether or not the property is on market and off market, the listing dates, if the property is available, or their last sale dates. In addition to that, the individual owner type. So in essence, some properties are owned by individuals, they're owned by banks, they're owned by LLCs. You want to basically filter and know what type of ownership you're trying to target. And also they have other statuses such as liens, divorce, vacants. All those things are actually in this filter search, and that's one of the reasons why we do like this as one of our top 2 databases. So for the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to actually target vacant properties. And so what we're going to do is we're going to check off vacant here, and we're also going to check off in the MLS status no here, because we don't want anything that's on the open market, because we're looking for off-market properties. We're also actually going to go down to ownership info and click on owner type, and we're going to click on individual. In this particular search, we want to actually search for individual owners and not LLCs or banks. We don't want any REOs. So now we're going to check our search. We're going to see if our filters here are in place. We see occupancy status as vacant, on market no, ownership type individual. We're going to click close, and we'll be able to see here on the right side which properties have been filtered down to fit our criteria. As you can see here, their unique properties are, they'll give you their number count here, and you can actually then go through and search by clicking on the blue property address if you want to get more details. So for example here, this property is a failed listing, meaning that they tried to sell the property and it was unsuccessful. You click on that, and as you go in here, it gives you detailed information from not only how much equity is in the property, but also how long they've owned the property, whether the property is owner occupied or not, whether the property is vacant or abandoned, or is lived in. You can actually also see the purchase method, and also if there's any mortgages, it will be actually listed down here. So it's an excellent resource to be able to use to be able to find properties. The great thing also about Propstream is the fact that it also allows you to be able to skip trace. So there's a skip trace feature. So what you would do is actually go over here on your left side and hit skip tracing. And generally they charge you 12 cents per record to be able to skip trace. Skip tracing meaning getting the phone numbers, the email addresses, the contact information for these individuals who own these properties. So for example, if I was actually going to create a list, I would actually go back here. I would actually check off all the properties that are actually looking to skip trace or get the phone numbers and the contact for, and I would click add to list, and I would actually create a new list. I would create a list, label that list, and actually have that list saved. And in my save, I would actually then go over back to skip trace, and I would skip trace those addresses, and it would give me results. And when those results come back, I would actually then have a list to be able to call on. So for example, this is the CSV file of the skip trace list, and as you can see, I've blocked out some information here to protect the owner's information, but it gives you all the data that you need. It gives you every phone number available, it gives you any email address available, and it starts the process with you contacting the owner to be able to find and buy your off-market property. Step 2. So the second step that I recommend is that you start to call the people. I do recommend that you start calling first, because voice-to-voice communication is actually the best communication that you can have when you're dealing in real estate. Remember, you can have all the technology in the world. At the end of the day, you still need to speak to that person. A rapport needs to be established, and they need to be able to know, and have some sort of rapport with you to decide to move forward with you in a real estate transaction. This is very important, and I teach this to all my agents and also all my students, because oftentimes we try to supplement that voice-to-voice touch with actually technology, and technology can never replace that. Technology can make the introduction. Technology can actually make the facilitation of the transaction smoother. It can actually help make you look better and actually help make you look more efficient. However, there still needs to be an established touch with some individual, with that person that's behind the ownership of that building or the ownership of that property, that needs to be done in order to be able to move the transaction forward. So voice-to-voice communication is what I highly recommend. So step 2 would be calling them to be able to make contact. Step 3. So step 3 in the process of finding off-market properties would be to text the individual. So you've used the database and you've gotten their information, you've gotten their phone number, and you've actually called them. The next step in the process would be to text them. Oftentimes people do not answer calls for phone numbers that they do not know. So look at yourself, for example. You may get many phone calls and cold calls throughout the day. Do you answer those calls every single time? You probably don't. One of the things that everyone does see though is the text message. So that's a very key tool when you're marketing to off-market properties. You want to have a robust and a solid text campaign and a solid text strategy, because oftentimes you'll be able to get through to them via text, whereas other means you can't. You may not have such a success rate with phone calls. You may not have such a success rate with emails. But texting, oftentimes if they have a phone, they'll see that text message. And I can share with you for a fact that we've done many successful deals via just text messages alone. The entire process started out with just one simple text. So texting is a very key step in the process of finding off-market homes, and it involves many things such as having the right text scripts, having the right banners. What do you say if they call back? Do you actually go through the process of the DNC list to be able to filter out phone numbers that are actually on the do not call list? Do you actually provide your email address? What do you send to them? Do you send to them your company information, your name, your phone number? All those details go into texting, and actually is a strategy that we actually use to be able to have effective text campaigns. And the fourth and final step in the process of finding off-market homes would be the follow-up process. And this is where it's actually key, because as they say, the fortune is in the follow-up. We've used this process for rent to own. We've used this process to be able to buy properties to hold. We've used this process for wholesaling. We've used this process to be able to list properties. The list goes on and on. The follow-up process is very, very key, because without that, you really are going to be wasting your time. You have to realize that on the first time, most of these people you're not going to get. You have to have a robust follow-up system. And what do you do in that follow-up system to be able to be effective, to not only remain diligent, to remain consistent, but remain top of mind to them, so if they are going to make any decision or any move or any shift, they know that invariably you're the only choice with no competition. So as I've shared, we've used this no competition real estate strategy to be able to buy properties in different markets across the country. Everything from tax liens to regular real estate properties that we can actually rent out, to rent to own homes, elaborate homes that we can actually put on the market for rent to own or keep to rent to own. Other properties such as rentals, vacant properties, foreclosed properties, you name it, we've done it with this strategy. So I actually like to share with you more on no competition real estate. What scripts do you use when you speak to them on the phone, when you call them in the calling stage? What text scripts do you use to be able to get to them when you're actually on the third stage and you're dealing with them in the text phase? What banners do you use? What marketing pieces do you use that are effective, that are going to let them trust you or position them to be able to see you as the only alternative for them to do anything with their real estate? We actually share this and more in our Rent to Own Masterclass, where we actually teach you how to find properties off market to be able to rent to own, whether they're foreclosure properties, vacant properties, properties that actually are in bankruptcy, short sale properties, the list goes on and on. So I actually like to share that with you, and I'll be teaching this and more in our Rent to Own Masterclass. Simply go to my website, AskRinde.com, click on Rent to Own, and get started today. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.